Nope. Right.
You can't be serious, man. You cannot be serious!
Now, sometimes on You Cannot Be Serious, we're very lucky to speak to eminent people who make the nation go round for one reason or another. Now, I don't know if I hope, I know this man's listening to me, but I'd hate to think, I don't think I've ever met Bruce Mathieson, but if he takes offence at that and he thinks, yeah, you've met me, you've been round to my house for dinner. I'm not sure if I've met Bruce, but who I've mentioned his surname, Christian name, but Sue Stanley, who is here with me, knows this man very well. And I'm just telling you now, he was born in Cobden in Victoria, which and that glib, trite phrase, he's a self-made man, but having said that, he's referred to as the billionaire pub baron. Now, I'm not saying this. This is what you get off the
Google machine.
The Google machine. He's known for his influence in the Australian pub, hotel, and gaming sectors. Now, wait for this. I hope he doesn't hang up. This is not what we've rang him for. Forbes have estimated his net worth, which we are not going to mention because it's distasteful and it's common to speak about people's wealth or what their bottom line is, so we're not doing that. Suffice to say that there's I've never heard of any of these things because I'm only partially educated myself, but suffice to say there's a Grizzly Bulls Billionaires Index. I have no idea what that means, but it's a daily ranking of the world's billionaires. And did you know this, Sue? There are 2,736 billionaires in the world.
Is your name on it?
My name? My name's, of course, it's could be on it. If I follow, and well, that's a very interesting thing you say. It could be on it if I follow. And they've used this man's template as a reason how you could become as rich as this man that I'm going to speak about. I'm going to introduce in 1 second. It says, these are this Grizzly Bulls Index, how to become a billionaire. You have to have a starting capital. You have to have an earnings after expenses spreadsheet. And you have what's known as a CAGR, a compound annual growth rate. And they use this man, Mr. Bruce Mathieson, as a template on how to become one of the 2,700 billionaires in the world. So welcome, Bruce Mathieson, to You Cannot Be Serious.
Thank you, Sam, and thank you, Sue, too. It's very kind of you to ask to be here.
Oh, no, mate, it's our privilege. It's an absolute pleasure. Now, before, I know you're a great Carlton man, aren't you? Are you still a great Carlton benefactor?
Once you got the disease, you never lose it, Sam. You know what it's like.
So you won't be wandering up to the Gabba anytime soon for watch them take on Brisbane, will you?
No, I won't be going. No, not at the moment. So I'm a homebody at the moment. So there you go.
Well, I know, Bruce, and I really appreciate you doing this. I know you have some health issues at the minute. And I'd like to ask you how you're going. If you want to tell us how you're going, that's fine. How are you?
Well, it's one of those things, Sam, it's a non-fixable problem, but they hope to keep it under control and do the best we can. So, look, I'm very fortunate. There's no grizzles from me, you know, how these things occur. And I suppose they occur for a reason. I don't know, but I've just had a crack of a life, and I would never want anyone to feel sorry for me. I've had a life beyond belief. So, but we're okay. That's the least of our worry at the moment.
Bruce, tell me, I'm not sure if I've been in your company before and met you, because I'm not sure of that, but if you say that I've met you several times, Sam, I'm on the way out mentally myself. But I haven't,
Sam. I haven't had the pleasure, Sam. We had a beer before too long. How's that?
That's fantastic. Now, I know you have multiple myeloma. I think that's what your problem is. Someone, I know this because someone told me this, that you embarked on you sought overseas help for an unusual therapy to see if you could overcome the problem. You might want to tell us what that was, or you might not want to speak about that.
No, it was, you know, how all these things come up when you know, all of a sudden you're crook and someone says, I've heard of this, I've heard of that. But my son and daughter-in-law have been looking after a young boy up here while the father goes away and gets this treatment to get this treatment overseas. Anyway, he came back and he said he thinks it's fantastic, I should go. And what it is, you go 11 metres underground, right? And you go into this copper igloo. And that's what it really is a copper igloo. And you lie on this bed and they switch this electrical machine on, and you're in there for half an hour in the jet black. Then you come out and you do that for 6 days on the trot.
Holy.
And
that's extraordinary.
Says, well, that should fix the problem. So I'm the 5th week in, and I hope it does fix the problem, because it'll be wonderful for everyone who has got a problem. So I went there. I'm in my 5th week in. I'm not having any chemo or anything at the moment while I've done that, and I don't know up till now.
So Bruce, as we speak to you, is this ongoing treatment that you're currently involved in now?
Well, yeah. Well, I've just finished 5 weeks.
Is this in Australia?
No, this is in Vienna.
Holy mackerel! So you've just come back from Vienna for having done it?
Yeah.
Or do you go back and forward?
No, just do it once. And he says very, very rarely will you have to come back. So it's either complete hogwash, Sam, or it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. But when you're 80 years old and you do these things, and you're in a fortunate position you can do these things, well, I did it. You know, I took my wife and 2 daughters. They had a wonderful time because Vienna's a lovely place.
Yep.
They're very good shoppers, like most young women are, you know.
That is extraordinary, Bruce, that you go 33 feet, 11 metres underground in a copper, copper or esophagus, or what I think, whatever those crypts are called. Yeah. This is not a claustrophobic thing, is it? Is it you're down there on your own with the lights out?
If you're claustrophobic, I don't think you'd enjoy being there. But you know, just lie down and relax, mate.
And what do they say? What does the 11 metres underground signify? What does that? Are you in charge with the Earth's electricity or something?
Yes, you're not allowed to. You're not allowed to wear. I'm not allowed to wear any jewellery, any watches, or anything like. Even the phone, which I'm talking to you now on, of course.
Yep.
Is I'm not allowed. Don't handle it. Just put it down somewhere and let speak on volume. But that's no alcohol, of course, and eat good, healthy food. But that's the only thing he says you have to do. And so he's saying, and look, when we were there, Sam, you'd be surprised. Like, it's not cheap. But
that was my next question, Bruce.
Well, it's 5,000 every half hour. If you do a half-hour session, it's 5,000 euros.
So you do a half-hour session for 6 days in a row?
Yes, that's right.
Wow.
And it costs you 5,000 euro a whack, and off you go. And, well, if it fixes you, Sam, it's the most wonderful thing, because it's not invasive, there's nothing. You don't feel sick or anything like that, because chemo knocks the hell out of you. And I'll know in about another 3 weeks. It was just a lovely shopping trip, or with a worthwhile trip.
And if the results come back and they're pretty positive, you'd go back again, would you?
No, you don't need to.
No, you don't need to. Just a 6 day thing, and that's it.
he said, very rarely does anyone have to come back for a second.
That's
I was
extraordinary.
talking to a lady who was there. I mean, put it this way, there's people waiting to go in after you always, every time I was there.
Oh.
And, there were people from Switzerland, Germany, bloody Hungary, all sorts of, I suppose the word gets around, but the bloke's been going for 24 years, so it's not as though it's an overnight thing. So,
I've never heard of it. I didn't even know. Why would I? But Sue, I don't know. Have you ever heard of that, Sue? I've never heard of that advertised, or maybe he doesn't have to advertise.
I haven't, but what was your blood count before you went there to get the treatment, Bruce?
When I first started on the trip, when I first, you wouldn't believe what happened, and this is how lucky you are in life, and that's why I'll never bitch, Sam. I was walking my dog this morning, just out on the beachfront here, and I was walking on the footpath, and I fell over, and you wouldn't believe it, crash. I really fell, and within 2 minutes, the bloke said to me, "Excuse me," he said, "Can I help you?" And I said, "I think I do need a bit of help, thank you, mate." I thought I'd broken my ribs. And he said, "I'm a doctor from the Pindara Emergency Hospital." Anyway, they got me, and next thing I'm in a ambulance going to hospital. And I thought I'd broken my ribs, as I said, but the thing is I hadn't. I'd ruptured my right kidney. And when they were doing all the tests on that, that's when they found out that I had multiple myeloma.
Good.
And I had a very aggressive one. I was 38, which is very, very, very high. Anyway, we got it down to 1, which would virtually mean in remission. And then it broke out again, and I was at 5. And that's when I heard of this thing here. And my last count last week, and this bloke said it'll possibly go up a bit for the first few weeks, and then it'll come down. So last week, on the 4th week, I was 7. And this week, which is when he says I'll start coming down, I hope to be under 7. And which, if it is, I'm really starting to look good.
That is absolutely amazing, extraordinary.
Hey, bit lucky. So
How did you get onto that? I know your son and your daughter-in-law said that, did they?
Yeah.
That's it.
Well, my brother has multiple myeloma, and he only had like a sore hand, and they just did a blood test. He was, I think, about 35, 38. So I think he's sitting on about 35. They haven't done chemo or anything, but he's 62. So
would he have €5,000? That's just to get there. You got to get there first.
Well,
would he? Yeah.
I'd give him the money if it works.
What price your health? Yeah.
Exactly, because what price is it? So
now, Bruce, that's extraordinary, mate. So I've never heard that.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Who would have thought of that, to put someone that far under the ground? Who's done the research on that? It's amazing.
I'm buggered if I know, Sam. But anyway, you give these things a go. And as I say, if not, the girls had some wonderful shopping experiences. Yeah. And my name keeps going. I call myself Donation Sam. I just donate to the cause.
So this is not dissimilar to the late Ron Walker, who had a similar incurable, or was curable, but he went all over the world, or went to I think he might have gone to Vienna himself, or Switzerland, and he went on an experimental therapy trial to try and I think it extended his life appreciably.
And now he's on the PBS.
Oh, is it? Yeah. Well, there we are, Bruce. Well, that's extraordinary. So I will. What is your idea of just a blissful day? I've got a feeling I know the answer to that, but a relaxing, a great day for the great Bruce Mathieson these days. What floats your boat? Floats your boat. Your boat.
No. Well, I'm very. It's an amazing thing. I've had the boat for a long time, but I'm lucky to get on it once every 2 or 3 years, because I'm one of those idiots, Sam. I always seem to be busy doing something, and it's it's a bit like yourself. Why you're doing what you're doing is because you enjoy it and you like meeting people and talking and so forth. So I live a very quiet life. I mean, you've been a man about town for many, many years.
I reckon I live my life as pedestrian as you do these days, Bruce.
Yeah, no, well, I'm one of those, and I've never been a great, I suppose because of the hotels and all that, you come home of a night time, you don't want to go out and party and have a few grogs and all the rest of it. You just want to come and relax. So my wife and I, and Sue knows this, we live a very, very quiet, mundane existence, and so I've been very fortunate about that. So I've taken up cooking. I do nearly all the cooking.
Do you?
So I enjoy that.
What's
That's
your special? What would you hang your hat on if you had to?
Spaghetti carbonara and spaghetti matriciana.
Matriciana, beautiful.
Yeah, I like that, and
so do I.
I like cooking racks of lamb and things like that. But I like a good old spaghetti. I'm still got that sort of thing. I love that. So.
Well, we only have one thing in common, Bruce. Let me tell you, I don't have anything else in common with you. But we came up here on this boat, Sue and I'd never cooked anything in my life, and I've done all the cooking for 100 days. We've been here. I've done all the cooking, and so far we haven't had to take her to the Proserpine Hospital. She's looking pretty sharp.
Well, she always did.
Yeah, she did too.
She always did too. My word, she did. So no. Well, that's very lovely, Sam. I'm glad you. What's your specialty? Don't worry about mine.
Oh, as long as the microwave's going, I'm okay. No, I'm pretty good at cooking. I'm pretty good at. I'm just nothing complicated, but I know I've learnt quickly, Bruce, that timing is everything. If you've got 3 or 4 things on the go, they've all got to come to the right. They've all got to come to fruition at the right time, or it's a hell of a mess, a meal, because you have something going cold while something's cooking. So I'm not bad at the timing part.
He cooks great meat and fish, and then everything else is steamed. So. No, I can say that he's excelled in those 2 areas.
Now, Bruce, your reputation and your success is legendary. We're going to just touch on that. Don't worry. I'm not saying to you, don't worry about that. I am going to touch on that. But are you? I want to ask you this: are you an educated person? Are you tech savvy?
Well, no. Well, I've never texted anything in my life, Sam. I've never written a letter in my life. And I don't know any of those things because I left school basically at 11, right?
At 11?
At 11, I basically become an apprentice toolmaker when I was 13. And then I started my own business when I was 18. And from there on in, it's just been one of those things that I've been blessed. As I said, I've had a blessed life that everything I've seen to do, I've seen to be reasonable at. But, the big thing is you've got to be a worker, you've got to work. And worker, everyone's got an Achilles heel. You've got an Achilles heel. Sue's got an Achilles heel. I've got one. All businesses have got one. And we've got to work on our weaknesses, right? And I've been very, very blessed throughout my life that the businesses that I went into have got huge Achilles heels. And I've been lucky enough to pick those Achilles heels. And that's where I've made most of my money. And then again, I've been fortunate that I would say 95% plus of all the people I've been against have been educated people. And I've always found they're the easiest to beat because they're complicated. They're taught to be complicated.
What a great omen that is. You're street smart and you've got, don't worry about all the figures and letters after your name. If you just know what's going on and you've got your feet on the ground and you've got your head in the right space, anyone's a pushover.
Well, the thing is, and you'll find I run by very strict rules, Sam. I've got 10 rules that I run by and I run the family by. And, I stick to those rules implicitly, and you find people throughout the whole life and everything, there's 2 hard words in any language, and it's the hardest word. All the rest don't mean anything, really. But it's the hardest words to say, and that's yes and no.
Yep, I do. Yep.
And did you win the game? Oh, but if I'd marked the bloody ball and he kicked it to me, I would have won. had happened or that. No, yes or no. I only want to know yes or no.
That's
I don't want to know all the complicated bullshit and carry on like pork chops and all this sort of thing.
How very, I couldn't. That is, I couldn't agree. Sue will back that up. That we just want to know. We don't want all the excuses, and we don't know. Could have, if I should have. Did you, or didn't you?
And the first thing, the hardest thing in life to control, Sam, is human greed. We're all greedy. That's the nature of the beast. But then what you've got to work out is at what risk. You see, everyone, if I say you come into business with me, Bruce, or come in with me, Fred, or whoever, first thing they want to know, but how much money are we going to make? How much money are we going to make? No, the art of it is, how much can you afford to lose? Not make. How much can you afford to lose? So I tried, after working out my rules and all that, I wanted to be paid as much when I sleep as when I'm awake. So I want to be paid 24 hours a day because I'm eliminating risk. My insurance continues to go 24 hours. My bank interest goes 24 hours. So if you can go into businesses that ring the piano 24 hours a day, you've got a great change.
Well, that's what Grizzly Bulls Billionaires Index said. The third thing on it says compound annual growth rate. You just want that to be going up no matter if you're working, sleeping or at play.
That's exactly right. So you've got to get paid 24 hours a day if you can, right? And then, you want to buy assets, and I've mainly always put my assets into things like, properties and all that. But when I first started, and I'm not having a go at anyone or, having picking shit or anything like that.
Please have a go at someone, Bruce. This would be good.
The whole industry, you couldn't get a job, Sam, in any brewery in Australia if you weren't a Catholic, right?
Yep.
Even when I become the biggest publican in Australia, you know what? CUB or Line 8, which is Castlemaine Tuies in those days, wouldn't still send me a rep. You know that?
No.
Yeah, I wasn't a Catholic.
That is amazing.
They controlled the whole industry that much, and they owned everything really. And this is really, I say, was the greatest Achilles heel that I ever found. Was they controlled everything, but you see what they did. They were only interested in distribution of their booze. Now, if I bought, say, Young and Jackson's, which you'd know, it didn't matter whether it was sitting on land worth 10 million or not. All they were interested in, if it was a 10 hogs pub, and a hog in those days, or still is, a hog is 318. So if you were doing 30 barrels a week, right?
Yep.
You were 10 hog pub. So that's what they valued you on, not on the land that you were sitting on. So they'd say, I want the price of those days, if it was 100,000 a hog, that's what you were valued at. And of course, I thought, well, this is just ludicrous. So that's when I went on buying sprees, because I was buying them on hogsheads, not on the properties.
Amazing.
Isn't
that is.
And I got away with that for years and years and years. No one ever woke up. I've never looked at anyone else's figures, Sam, on any business I bought. Because the simple reason is that happened yesterday or the day before. But you might be like you as a footballer. You might be a better ruckman than me. So what's me want to look at your statistics for? I'm only worried about what can happen from today on and how good I think I am and at what risk.
So I'm just starting to put maybe two and two together. I might be way off the mark here, Bruce, but I just digress a little. You are investing in a group called the Star Entertainment Group in Sydney. You're a reasonable share in that, I believe.
Yeah.
And someone said they're not sure about the how that business is going, but I got a feeling you're not in it for the business, you're in it for the real estate.
Well, you have a look at the real estate. Sydney Casino, they just finished basically a $4 billion casino in Brisbane, brand new, right? They've got a beautiful casino in Gold Coast, not a bad place to have it, I'd say. And all these things. And here you are, you couldn't, build those assets for 10 billion at least. And they're valued on the market at about 1.5 billion.
Yeah, so it's the real estate that keeps you interested. The business, of course, you'd like it to tick over, but the real estate is the bottom line, is the end result for you.
That's up to you to get that going and how good you think you are, isn't it?
Amazing.
And so you put the value on what you think you can make it do and what, I might be wrong, Sam, but...
I got a feeling you wouldn't be wrong, Bruce, or I've got a feeling we wouldn't be speaking to you under the terms we're speaking to you. Now, you said you started at, I think, 13, you worked in, did I get this right, in an engineering... Was that
the tool maker.
Was that making casters on chairs?
No. We were making the dies. A tool maker, people think you make spanners and all this. You make the equipment that makes these things. Right? It's like nothing in plastic can be made without a die.
That's right.
Nothing in big manufacturing, you say a car door or a bonnet and all that. It's got to be made from a die.
You pour it into a sand mould, don't you, or something?
No. These are...
I told you I was out of my depth here, Bruce.
No, it's all right. I'm possibly out of mine. But, a toolmaker makes things that's going to make big production runs. And that's really what it's about. And
that's how you...
There again, you see, and this is why I keep coming back to just how lucky I've been. When I got out of my apprenticeship, as I say, I was 18 at the time. That's when I met the chairman. So I've been going with her since I was 18.
Yeah.
And... but plastics had just come into Australia, so that was a whole new, and everything had to be made in tool making. So there was that much work for tool maker. Then all of a sudden, as well, aluminium extrusions came in, which were aluminium windows and door frames and all that. So it's timing. Yourself, Sam. A lot of it's about timing. So I was in a great timing spree of bloody work and all that sort of thing, and so I started up my own business then when I started toolmaking contracting when I was 18, and I made a lot of money. When the average bloke was getting in those days, say 22 pounds a week. I was making up to £80 a week.
Wow.
And then started my own engineering business, and I, did very well. I had a couple of patents myself. You might remember some of them, the old aluminium folding chair and banana lounge and all that sort of
stuff. Yep. I've got trapped in plenty of those over the journey, Bruce, after I've had a few drinks.
Yeah, they did. It's pretty easy, especially a big bloke like you, Sam.
Now, Bruce, I'm told, did you buy 320 hotels in one weekend?
Yes, I did. 369 to be exact. Was the biggest property deal in Australia's history at that stage, off Alan Bond.
I was just going to say, Alan Bond seemed to be your guardian angel. You might have had some... You might have had some problems with him, but in the end, he happened to be your absolute guardian angel.
Well, it was to a point, but John was a hell of a guardian angel and some big problems. And, to give you an idea, Sam, I paid back then $323 million for those pubs, which was a lot of money in '86, right?
Yeah, it was, Bruce.
And today, those hotels would be worth more than $16 billion. Amazing, isn't it? The growth.
It's amazing your insight and foresight, Bruce. That's why you are who you are.
Just one of those things. But,
yes, just one of the.
Lucky at the right time.
So did you? I suppose you met Alan Bond, did you?
Oh, heaps and heaps of time. Heaps and heaps of time spent. And he was a funny bloke. He should end up nearly the richest man in the world if he didn't like the ladies and listened to Peter Beckworth. Peter Beckworth was the real brains behind the Bond Corporation, really, to be honest. So real sad to be that Bondi didn't listen to Peter.
I wonder if Peter told him to buy Channel 9 and then...
No, that was all done on ego. But even then...
Yes, I was going to say he was a braggart, Alan, wasn't he? He was just wanted to be the biggest player in the field.
He had to be top of the block, you know. And once you start that, Sam, they become very easy to beat because they start making mistakes, you know. And
did you meet?
Better off.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Did I meet?
Oh no, I was going to say, did you meet any of the like the heavy hitters? Like, did you meet Kerry Packer, or was he in the business industry? That not the industry. Was he an acquaintance?
I only ever met Kerry once. And that was, you know, how I boom bang, and you know, we'll catch up one day.
Yep.
I spent quite a bit of time with James, and
is this in relation to the Star Entertainment, the group in Sydney, or was that just social?
No. This is when he was flying pretty high, because I kept on saying to him, look, you just can't keep going like you're going, because the casinos in those times were not behaving pretty well. And, you know, that's where the human greed side of things come into to play, Sam. You know, they think that the piano's never going to stop ringing, and at the rate it was ringing. And it was just, you can't have jet, you know, they had about 3 or 4 jets just bringing in people day and night. Now, someone's got to sit down one day and say, like, where does the money come from, don't they?
They do indeed.
You know, all these things, they get carried away. It's like a bloke trying a drug. He says, I'll only ever try it once, you know, but then, I really, you know, that felt okay. It wasn't too bad. And a week later, he said, I'll give it another go. It didn't hurt me, you know, and all of a sudden he's cooked.
Yep.
And when you're making the money that these blokes were money for the way they were making it, it becomes like a drug to them. You know, they just can't stop. You know, ridiculous.
Those compatriots of yours were Peter Bartels, who and were John Elliott. Did you rub shoulders with them, or they're in obviously the same industry as you, but maybe you're at arm's length from them?
I was very arm's length with John. Actually, of course, I was the one that had to kick Elliott out of Carlton.
Yeah, that was a cryptic question, that Bruce. I knew that, but I just thought I'd let you say it.
Yeah, so John, and I don't want to...
Bit of a rogue. You know, he's a bit of a rogue. I interviewed John on this very show, and I said, you're a bit of a rogue in business, John. And he said, yeah, well, pig's ass.
John was the same sort of thing. He just got power mad.
Yep.
It's a terrible thing to get, you know, get carried away with your own worth and your own
importance,
how good you think you are. And there's not many of them survive it, Sam, I find, anyway. I might be wrong, but I find that not many of those blokes really survive and come out the other end very well.
So did you ever think, I mean, you would have had the power and you would have had the growth, and, I mean, they got the power and then they got the ego. Did you ever at one point say, hey, I could go down this track, but you've kept the lower end and you've kept grounded? So did you fight any demons or battles in that area?
No. Well, the big thing is, Sue, even to this day, I still look at myself as I've never been accepted in the business world, because I'm very ill-taught to a lot of the bullshit they go along with. You know, 99%, Sam, you've hung around football clubs, you've hung around bloody, you know, a lot of people. And 99% of it's just the big boys club. Who knows who and who's what's, you know.
Yep.
And it doesn't come back to whether who's got the right ability or who should be there, or, you know, and we should be doing this. So I've never been accepted. I've never been a dresser. I don't like dressing up or anything. I'd really, the only place I'm happy at is really at home. I don't know why. I don't know what comes from my upbringing. Mum, brought the three of us boys up because Dad had our family virtually wiped out in the war years. So we've always been, and Jill was the same, thank God. And I suppose that's why we've always been where we've. I'll tell you a story, all right? And I'm not saying it just to be a smart ass, right? So please put in the context.
I'll tell you what, you could tell us any stories, Bruce, and we don't think you're a smart ass, mate. Let me assure you that.
No, well, thank you. I did a big deal, right? And I said to Jill, I think when I sign these papers tomorrow, that'll be the first time we've ever made $1 billion, right? And she said, are you serious? I said, oh, yeah, no. I said, I can genuinely say to you today, Dale, that's what will happen. That's what we are. And she said, oh, that's fantastic, really. And I said, yeah. I said, well, look, we'll possibly go out tomorrow night. We'll go out and have tea. And she said, yeah, that'd be nice. So anyway, I come home. And we're sitting at the bench there, and I said, well, I've done it, Dale. We are genuine, without doubt, made $1 billion. Anyway, I said, we should have a champagne or something, because we don't drink very much at all at home or anything like that. Anyway, I got out this bottle of champagne, and it was a bottle of Clico, and I cracked it, and it was, to put it bluntly, it was shit out. It was hot. It crushed. Anyway, I got another one out. I got another one, and there was I said, what's going on here? Anyway, of course, what happens to all the pubs I take a couple of bottles of wine. Anyway, I took it out of the Balaclava Hotel, and I'd had them for over 15 years, and we'd never drank them.
They're meant to mature, aren't they?
Well, that's what I thought. Anyway, so here we go. I said, so I got out a bottle of what's the name of it?
Porphyry Pearl.
No, I got out champagne.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I got out a bottle of this other champagne. I'll think of its name in a minute.
Great Western.
No, it was still French champagne.
Oh, was it? Yeah, sorry.
Anyway, so the bloody thing, we're sitting there and having a bicky and all that sort of thing, and we kept on talking. And of course, by this time, it was about 5:45. I said, oh, well, we better get ready to go and get some tea, Dale. And she said, well, do you really want to go out? I said, oh, I don't care. So to be honest, and this is swear in the Bible, we ended up having 2 boiled eggs each. And that was our celebration.
Fantastic. Now, Bruce, you've got to tell us what was the deal you did that made you $1 billion?
Well, that deal there was genuinely the Woolworths when I first signed there. I've done a couple of them where I've made a few shillings, but that one there,
Is that through the? Do you have a love-hate relationship with the Endeavour Group? Was that part of the Woolworths deal or package?
No. Well, yeah. You see, because what amazes, this is why I don't like hierarchy. Here we are. That company, when I set that up with Roger Corbett, who is the best businessman I've ever struck, Roger, and one of the finest, if not, one of the very finest people I've ever met. He sticks to his word. We shook hands. We shook hands on a deal. We never signed a bit of paper. We spent over $3.8 billion. We never signed a bit of paper.
And Roger Corbett was with whom?
Well, he was with Woolies at that stage.
Woolies.
He was
yep.
And you see, it was all based on, as I said, and you can call it liquor, you can call it what, but it was all based on the underpinning of property and poker machines.
Yep.
You can't make hotels work today if you haven't got poker machines and that, whether you like it or not. Illegal. And see, even now, Woolworths have just sold again because they say they don't want to be involved with poker machines. Well, I've been involved with poker machines for over 20 plus years. And they don't mind being half pregnant. They've still got shares. Like, you're either in or you're out, aren't you? You either believe these things or you don't. And I don't get, this is where I argue with a hierarchy. You can't be half this, half that. It's either 2 words, yes or no.
Yep, you're in or you're out.
You're in or you're out, and that's what it is.
So Bruce, you and your family own nearly 50% of the poker machines in Victoria. I think that's probably about right, isn't it? Well, 45%.
It's certainly in the high 40s, I'd say.
Yep.
Yes.
Well, that's nearly 50%, and I know that a single. I just know this. A single entity can't own any more than 35%. So you divested them amongst your family. Absolutely.
No, that's not correct.
No, good.
They were taken from us, right? And we weren't compensated for them either, Sam. Like, it was a hell of a big cost taken from us. It's like you saying you got 10 houses, but you only had 6. They just took 4 off you.
No, when I said you divested them amongst your family, you held a certain number, and to satisfy the. Nope, sorry.
We're allowed in legislation to have 35%. I wasn't allowed to give them to my family or anything. No, that's not correct.
Right.
They just took them. My family, Dave and Johnny and Bruce.
Yep.
They are allowed to buy poker machines themselves in their own business, but they had to go through such scrutiny.
Yeah, regulatory matters.
It was their money, and which it was.
So which gets, yep, go ahead.
No, it was their money, Sam, not my money. It was their money.
Okay.
So they were quite entitled, but it was a hell of a battle to get that through. And because it was genuine, that of course it got through. And they went out and bought hotels themselves.
Yes. And
they run them completely themselves. I have nothing to do with them in any way, shape or form.
Yeah, no, I understand that. That's not quite what I meant. I was pretty clumsy in the question I asked you, but I thought that a single person could only have 35%, and if you wanted more, correct. Well, the family interest have more than that.
Yes,
combined. Yes, that's what I was trying to get at. And the Victorian government, I presume, were the arch enemy of this, were they?
Well, they brought the law in.
The Andrews government.
You've got to abide by the law, and that's okay. But I hate laws that are retrospective. It's like the laws now in Victoria. They change a lot of the laws, where a lot of the old farmers and all these people had land that they've owned for 100 years. Now they've changed the law on them.
Just on the run.
Which I think is very wrong, It's taken an enormous amount of the wealth off some of these people. And they've done nothing wrong. They've worked their bums off for 100 years, and bloody industry and housing's moved around them and all that. Why shouldn't they benefit from that?
Yep. So did you have some stern and robust conversations with the Andrews government, or weren't they responsible for all this?
No, the Andrews. No, it wasn't the Andrews. Yes, it was. Yeah, but no, it wasn't. It was the one before. But
yep.
No, it was no use. What do you say? Government's a government, Sam. You got to live with at the time what it is, and I can argue and carry on like a pork chop, but I've never. It's very rarely you'll ever win an argument with them, will you?
So about 11,000 businesses went under due to the COVID restrictions. I see that the other day. How did COVID knock you and the gambling industry and the pubs around? Obviously not too badly because...
Oh, well, they did because they were the only things that survived, really. The pubs had to close down. The big thing that's, the only things that you were allowed to operate was the bottle shops. So, it was pretty hard and of course what happens is the interest rates and all that, they didn't stop you. The bloody governments and councils didn't stop sending you rates for your bills for your rates and all the other things, did they,
No.
I mean, some of these people, people have worked their backsides off all their life, end up with bloody nothing. To me, it's bloody terrible. But
So Bruce, in this woke world that we live in, we have the activists on climate and electric vehicles and fossil fuels and religion, but none more, I got a feeling, than the do-gooders who keep belting the poker industry. How do you, poker machines, how do you balance the social conscience with what you do and the poker machine industries that you run?
Well, you never will. But I always like to ask him a question, Sam, and maybe I shouldn't say this, but
say it, Bruce, please.
If you were being fair dinkum, Sam, how many deaths do you think a year are caused out of religion?
Yes. I look no further than what's going on in the Middle East.
But I'm just saying, you know, you look right throughout, and what's been going on for centuries after centuries, how many of them do they want to close down?
Yep. So everyone has a choice. Everyone has a choice whether they go into use poker machines or not. And all the, some of the AFL clubs are pushing back on it, saying it's not responsible to have people and taking money off our fans that come in.
Yes, but wait on. The bloke who headed that up used to be the head of Coles, and where did most bonus and that come from?
Yep. Hypocrisy, mate, is hypocrisy one of the great scourges of the world we live in.
Well, that's why I might as well stay home, Sam. Understand what I mean?
I do indeed.
It's I don't have to, because I ask or say the thing straight out, and everyone gets dark on you then, and I think it's just bloody wrong myself personally. Don't throw rocks at someone until you really make sure your side of the fence is very good.
So you, besides the main industry you're involved in, you're pretty diverse in your interests. Did you buy a golf club? Someone said, Bruce, just before you answer that over an impromptu lunch you bought an island resort, or is that absolutely apocryphal and nonsense?
No, I didn't buy an island resort. No. I didn't have that much to drink, Sam.
Now, I don't know where that came from. Someone said, ask Bruce about the fact that he got stranded with his son somewhere and he was having lunch, and so that's just how things start. What about you bought a golf club?
Oh, well, I've had land that was run by, we ran a golf club for Carlton for many years, but it was sitting on prime land, and we're going for a permit to knock it down. But I've never been a golfer, Sam, and I never let my staff really be golfers because it takes too long, and it's also all these sort of clubs and all that were run by sponsored by bloody the breweries and the bloody Coca-Colas and all those sort of things. And of course, then they love inviting you, all your main people out for lunch and doing these things. So once you owe someone something, you can't do a proper deal, can you?
No, you cannot. No, if you are hamstrung by the bottom line, you cannot, Bruce. I know very little about all this, but only just through logic would tell me that.
Well, it is. If you're out, you and I are out, and you're taking me and saying, "Look, there's a trip available." If you buy an extra 2 pallets of beer this week, there's a trip to Hong Kong in a month's time. Why don't come with Jill and I? You know what I mean? So it means the next time I'm really pushing to get a price, how do I push the best price? I don't think it can.
But Bruce, sometimes it's not always just butterfly wings and caviar and aspic jelly. Sometimes to experience the highs, sometimes the lows have to come into a person's portfolio. Now you had a crack at an iron ore industry called Western
You've done some homework
Western
on me.
Desert Resources, and and also you had a shot at a main farmer, which was a pharmaceutical. Probably a couple of things that didn't work out for you, but if you don't have a go, the biggest risk to take in life is to not take a risk at all.
Well, Western Desert was just one of those. You never think that you'd get tied up in a 100-year flood, right?
No.
Yep. And you'd never think you'd get tied up with a bloody high tide. You wouldn't believe it where it is. The high tides pushed the river back 60 kilometres, Sam.
Did it?
And flooded everything as well as the floods. And, of course, then also iron ore collapsed. You had the thing going today to what it was going, the volume and all that would have been one of the best ripper deals. But there again, I didn't look at the risks, you see, Sam. I never thought of Mother Nature.
No, that's right. You'd have to be pretty good to anticipate a high tide every 100 years, Bruce.
Yeah, so, all those sorts of things, you can make excuses later on, but they're part of your learning curve. I've never been upset about getting a right hook, because you turn around and say, well, it should have been done better than that, or,
should have
or
ducked.
a reef. You know what I mean?
I do.
You just got, did I kick the goal? No, I didn't kick the bastard. But I was only 20 metres out, but geez, I'll have to do a lot better bloody next time.
Now, a couple of mutual friends of ours, as John Locko, who I know well, and he handled, for want of a better word, security at your various...
The old Marine, and they were beautiful. Yeah,
a very good man. And David Mann, who I think...
Yeah, I know David. David's a character.
Yes.
Lovely David.
Yes. I think he started up a couple of discos for you, tried them out in a couple of hotels that you had your first.
Yeah. Yes, that's exactly bloody right. Isn't that lovely? That's funny. Yeah.
Now, and your first hotel was, I should know this, I have this written down. Was it Macedon? No, where was it? What, Macedon?
Mount Macedon.
Yeah,
Mount Macedon. That's the first, that was your first dipped a toe in the water to the great empire that is Bruce Mathieson. That's where it started.
Yeah, and that was doing 2.5 barrels a week. And my first week I did $684, Sam. So there you go. And I thought, shit, what am I doing here? But anyway, we persevered and we're there 2 years. We rebuilt a lot of it, built 50 squares onto it. And when we sold out, I trebled my money, so I wasn't that upset. And then I bought the Armadale Hotel, and of course that became a big became a big entertainment pub.
Yeah, so I think I remember David Mann telling me this. The first disco that you asked him to operate at a pub, you had no one came to it at all, and you said to him, not sure that went too well, David. And he said, did you do any advertising, Bruce? He said, advertising? What, to a disco? And he said, so I think that just went from leaps and bounds after that.
I did. Yeah, we had some funny things. Yeah, oh, God. You look back and you think yourself, how in the bloody hell? Yeah. Anyway, they were all, it's like you, I suppose, Sam, you start off your life and you did things and you say, why in the bloody hell, or how did that happen? But they all happened, so that was it.
Now, Bruce, just very quickly, I really appreciate your time. Just two quick, very informal. I'm told that to let your hair down every now and again, you have a social outing called the Best Board at.
Well, I did for many years. Yeah, Ronnie Best.
Yes.
And he was from Bendigo. And he was a great footballer, Ronnie, possibly the best country footballer that never ever played the league because he didn't really want to leave Bendigo. And we used to all get together and
the parliamentary dining hall.
Yes, that's true. And we used to have.
And
you
used to belt people. You used to. It was a sort of a mini roast session.
Yes, we were very kind to one another.
Yeah. And finally, Bruce, this is it gets my heart as well. For your 60th birthday, your beautiful wife Jill, did she not seek out the Austin Healey car that you courted in and presented it to you at the Silvers nightclub on your occasion of your 60th birthday? I know the Austin Healey well. That must have been an absolute thrill.
Oh, it is, and I've still got it, Sam.
Have you?
Yes. Oh, yeah. No, that's in the family for life. Yes, that's in mint condition. And, she had it hidden from me while she got it rebuilt for nearly 10 years. So,
fantastic.
It was wonderful. So, as I keep saying, I've been blessed. So, I've been with the chairman 62 years. Only had one argument. Only had one argument, by the way, Sam. It's been going 62 years.
Well, it's fantastic.
Round, you know.
Now, Bruce, this has been absolutely delightful to talk to you. I'm glad you said I haven't met you, because I'd hate to think I didn't realise. You're a man, I'm told this, a man of great integrity and morals and principles, and it's fantastic that you've had the success you've had, and you are one of the great Australians in business and in social life. And Sue's nodding here, and she's told me a little about you, and she is fond of her and fond of you herself. And we very much appreciate you coming on You Cannot Be Serious, Bruce Mathieson.
Thank you, Sam, and thank you, Sue. That's very kind. And if you're ever down on the Gold Coast, please look us up, and we'll go out for dinner.
Right. If I can ever get the boat back from Airlie Beach and I could find the entrance to the Gold Coast Marina, I'll take you up on that. And
we'll go and have a pizza or something.
Yeah. We'll have a couple of boiled eggs and some Veuve. Yeah, or we'll get you a decent bottle of Veuve Clicquot this time.
We look at boiled eggs. It's very expensive, I can tell you. They cost a lot to get.
All the best, Bruce.
Love to you and Jill.
Bruce Mathieson, thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.